Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and today I'm going to build a Schwimmwagen Type 166. This, as you might guess by the name, or the fact that it says it right there on the box, is an amphibious four-wheel drive car. This is a 28mm or 156 scale plastic wargaming kit from Rubicon Models. On the back of the box we see a couple of paragraphs about the Schwimmwagen and its use during the war. There's also a very basic painting guide, and an image of the included decal sheet. Pretty much what you would expect to see on the back of a Rubicon box. Inside, we find one single sprue which has all of the bits and pieces that we'll need. There's not a whole lot of parts here, probably because this is a fairly small model. Still, there is a bit more stuff here than I was expecting, and that's not a bad thing of course. These parts are the high quality that I would expect from Rubicon's kits. Everything is nice and neatly moulded, and while they are there is very little in the way of mould lines, and I wasn't able to find any defects or any obvious errors. The detail in this kit is quite good. When I look at Schwimmwagens I see a pretty simple, smooth looking vehicle, but there is still quite a bit of stuff to put on this thing. Obviously I'm not an expert on these things, so I can't tell you how realistic this is, and it is a wargaming kit at the end of the day, so if you're looking for an extremely detailed display piece, this might not be your best choice, but it is a great little kit that will build up to represent a Schwimmwagen quite nicely on the gaming table. In addition to the plastic sprue, we get this decal sheet as shown on the box. The box wouldn't lie to us, would it? There's a few emblems and insignia here, but these are mostly license plates. Way more than you're ever going to need on a single vehicle. It's good to have choices, and this kind of thing is good to keep on hand anyway. You may find a use for these in the future. There's also an instruction booklet, which should come as no surprise at all. Nor should the good quality of the instructions be surprising if you've seen a Rubicon kit before. Everything is laid out neatly and the diagrams are easy to understand and follow. That's what's in the box. Now it's time to glue some bits of plastic to each other. I start at the beginning, which in this case is the hull. Or is it a body? It's a car, so you would say a body, but it's also a boat, so I don't know what to think. Anyway, the lower hull parts go together nice and easily. This is because there are guide pins which ensure everything is lined up properly. I added a bit of extra glue and some pressure to make sure there were no unwanted gaps. Gaps would lead to sinking, and that seems like the opposite of what we want this thing to do. Now it's time for wheels. These have a simple mounting hole that matches the axle-y bits, though the front and rear wheels are slightly different, so do be sure that you are putting the wheels in the correct positions. These are numbered accordingly in the instructions, which is quite helpful. Here's the part where I say the wheels are really good, because they are, and I'm very funny. And original. Next, I install a hook in the front of the hull. This goes into place easily, though a little bit of nudging was needed. Hooks and things to attach ropes to seem like a pretty useful thing on a water-going vehicle. I follow that with these bar things that go on the sides. I think these might also be for ropes and stuff like that to be tied onto, though of course I am just guessing here. These parts are easy to get into place, though they are both different, so make sure that you're putting the correct part on either side. Now it's time to put stuff on the inside of the hull. First, this floor part, which looks kind of odd. I guess it's like this to keep the water from flooding the driver's feet or something like that. Behind that, I add this other bit of floor, or seat-holdy bit. Seats will go here, so I guess that's what we'll call it. This part pretty much just drops right into place. Speaking of seats, I add the two in the front section. The mounting bits for these aren't centered, and it does seem to matter which side of the car you put them on. Referring to the instructions is a good idea here. I did need to do a little bit of nudging here until I was satisfied with how the seats were sitting. I follow this with the two seats for the rear. These are identical, and the keying makes them very easy to get positioned. No nudging or fiddling was required. Next comes the propeller. This consists of two parts that clip together, but I didn't film the initial assembly of this and didn't want to break it by trying to pull it apart. But here it is anyway. I take that assembly and glue it onto the rear of the hull, right where that slot is. It goes on pretty easy, though a little bit of pressure was needed. I decided to glue the propeller into place, and I've chosen to have it slightly elevated, which is how I imagine it would look in car mode instead of when it's being used as a boat. If you wanted, you could leave this unglued, but I didn't really want to have it flopping around. If you ask me, it looks quite propeller. Next, I take the upper hull part, into which I glue the dashboard. This is pretty easy, and the parts are keyed such that you shouldn't get this wrong, not unless you really try at it. I test fit this with the lower part of the Schwimmwagen, just to make sure that it will all go together properly. If there's going to be any issues, I would like to be prepared for them. Then I glue the steering wheel into place. This is just about as easy as it looks, especially if you think it looks really easy. I set that aside to bond, and then it's time to assemble some headlamps. You get a choice here: plain lenses, though they're obviously in the grey plastic so you'll have to do some paint trickery to make them look like headlamps, or, as I've used, the covered headlamps. These look cool and they're much easier to paint convincingly. And then I take the front bumper part and glue a no-tech convoy lamp onto it. Not much to say about this really. And then, so the Schwimmwagen can defend itself, I assemble a machine gun. The kit gives you the option of an MG34 or an MG42. I've chosen the MG42, mostly because of reasons. Gluing the magazine into place is nothing difficult, though I did find I had to trim the mounting area down ever so slightly. Before installing any of that, I join the upper and lower halves of the Schwimmwagen together. This is pretty easy. I apply plenty of glue so that the glue god won't smite us, though a little bit of pressure was needed to ensure minimal gaps. The windshield comes next, and this can simply be clipped into place, though actually getting it in between the two mounting things for it was actually fairly hard, and I had to apply quite a bit of force, so much that I was worried it was going to break. It didn't though, so that's nice. You could leave this so that it's movable, but I chose to glue it into the upright position because why not? Next, a spare wheel goes on the front of the Schwimmwagen here, like so. There are 3 guide pins on the bottom of this, so it should drop right into place with no hassle. Then I add this, what I'm assuming is the muffler here. I figure this goes on top of the vehicle to stop water from getting in, which seems like a sensible design choice. The part drops right into place in the 2 mounting holes just as easy as you like. On top of that I glue this tool. You will definitely be surprised to learn that I have no idea what this is or what it does. I did manage to glue it into place quite easily though, so I guess that's what matters. Next, I install the folding arm support thingies for the canopy. If you saw the stream where I built this kit, you'll know that I initially put these on wrong. You putting parts on wrong? Not surprised! Shut up. I put them on a bit too low in fact. That's why you should pay good attention to the instructions. If you put them on in the correct place, as I did after pulling them off again, they go on nice and easy. And then on top you can glue this thing, which sits nicely atop the 2 doodads like so. I totally know what this is, I just don't feel like telling you. Yeah, that's it. Cast your memory back and remember how I glued that convoy light onto the bumper. Well, now it's time to glue that onto the front of the vehicle. There's a couple of nubs in the front that work as mounting points, and you may need to nudge this around a fair bit, but it's not too hard to get this on neatly. Next, I add the headlamps I assembled all those minutes ago. These go into the little slots that you can see on either side towards the front. Again, a little bit of fiddling was needed to get them into place, and the right one is a little bit wonky, but that's okay. Next, at the rear, I install this thing. This seems to be a brake light and rear number plate thing. Tweezers were quite helpful in getting this into place. There's a similar part on the other side, and it goes into place pretty much the same way. Nice and easy. Next, I attach the canvas, or I'm assuming this is canvas, for the folded up canopy. This mounts on top of the foldy arm thingies, which is totally the proper name for them. I had to apply a little pressure to get a good fit here, and rather than just pressing down on it, potentially causing damage, I used my knife to aid in the application of the pressure. Then, into the little recess on the left side towards the front, I glue the shovel. This seems like a pretty sensible inclusion for a vehicle that would likely encounter quite a bit of mud. Something else that seems sensible is paddles, just in case you find yourself in a certain shit creek. I hear getting stuck there without a paddle kind of sucks. These have an angled recess in the back of them that should line up with the brake light doodad that we installed earlier. Once you line that up, they drop right into place. I add a bit of glue at the handle end so they stay there good and proper, and now we've got a well-prepared Schwimmwagen. The final touch is to install that MG42 that I assembled earlier. The windshield did interfere with this ever so slightly, but not enough that you would really notice. Now the Schwimmwagen can defend itself, or maybe go machine gun fishing. And that's the 28mm scale Schwimmwagen by Rubicon Models completed. This was a very fun little kit to build, and I'm quite pleased with the result. I think it looks really cool. When I chose to build this kit, I was expecting it to be a little bit more simple than it actually was. There's a bit more to glue on than I was expecting, judging by the picture, but that's not really a complaint, and it was still pretty simple to put together. It is a wargaming kit after all. All said, it took me around 2 hours to get done, though obviously while streaming the build, a bit of distraction and durdling about was involved. You could probably put this together much quicker if you wanted. You probably saw on the sprue that this kit includes a crew figure, and unusually I was actually going to put the crew figure together. I know, crazy right? As luck would have it though, I lost one of the arms, so instead of having a driver with one arm, I figured I would just leave the figure out. I'm not all that upset by this, though it is always annoying to lose parts. If I didn't want to use it, the bits box could have had it. What matters though, is that I've ended up with a really cool looking model. It looks very Schwimmwagen-y, and it should look great on the gaming table once it's got some paint on it. The model, that is, not the gaming table. I have no idea how effective or useful this vehicle is in games like Bolt Action, but that's okay. I do like having as many choices for things to bring as possible. Or maybe I just have a plastic crack addiction. Maybe I can quit any time I like, damn it. Anyway, I think this is a great little kit, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody who needs a little swimmy car in this scale. If you have any questions or comments, it would be great to see those in the comment section below. If you've built one of these or any other cool models and you want to share, why not drop by our Discord community and say hello and share some pictures. We'd love to see what you've done. If you'd like to watch me build kits like this live, head on over to my Twitch channel, the link for which is in the description. And if you've not already done so, why not subscribe, follow, ring the bell, become a patron if you want to see my videos a bit early, or maybe just come say hi on Discord or Twitch. Links to all of my things are in the description below, and, as always, I shall return soon. So, until then, be excellent to each other, and thanks for watching. Farewell.